In this X's O's football video breakdown, we're going to take a look at a three-play blitz scheme out of the nickel 155 Prowl that we like to bring some pressure on a quarterback. Now, actually, two of these blitzes that we're going to show are actually blitzes, and the third play that we're going to show isn't really a blitz. It's just a base defense that we like to use to go ahead and complement these other two blitzes. The very first defense that we're going to show is called Overload Blitz, which happens to be a man blitz. And then we also have Overload 3 Seam, which happens to be a zone blitz. And then we have two-man under, which is our base defense for this particular scheme. So let's go ahead and take a look at it as far as the first defense, which is going to wind up being the Overload Blitz. Let's go ahead and just take a look at it. And what you're going to wind up doing with this particular defense, you're going to look to get some pressure from two different defenders, and we'll show those here in just a second. Now, one of the things that you want to do is you're going to want to take control of the nickel back who's lined up right here as you look at your screen. So make sure you take control of him once you come out of the huddle and you get to the line of scrimmage. The first thing that you want to do with this particular defense is you're going to want to wind up calling bump and run man coverage. So let's just go ahead and call bump and run man coverage there. And you can see what this defense winds up doing. It winds up bringing those two corners on the outside, and they lined up tight on those receivers. There's one right there, which happens to be the the right cornerback, and then this guy here, which happens to be the left cornerback, is covering the flanker. So they're both tied up on those receivers. And as you look at it, you wind up having 5 defenders in man coverage. So you have these 5 guys in man coverage as far as covering those 5 receivers. As far as the blitzers go, we're going to wind up having 6 of them coming after the quarterback. There's a nickel back. We wind up having a couple linebackers coming. Actually winds up being 4 linebackers, and we also have this guy right here, which is going to wind up being a defensive tackle or nose tackle. So those are the guys that are looking to put the pressure on the quarterback. Also, the other thing I want to point out with this particular defense before we continue on with the setup here is this. Make sure that you understand this is a high-risk, high-reward type defense, because this is a cover zero defense, and there's a good chance if you don't get home with one of those linebackers or one of the defenders, in this case the nickel back, gets to the quarterback, and if the quarterback has enough time to make that throw, there's a good chance you could wind up being beat for a big play. Now, as far as the setup goes, what we're going to do is we already pointed out that we want to take control of the nickel back. So we're going to take control of the nickel back, and what we want to do is bring him inside of the right outside linebacker here, and then we want to release him. And in that way, what's going to wind up happening is he's actually going to wind up setting just outside of the right outside linebacker, and we're looking for him to come through here. He's going to look to go into this area here and put pressure on a quarterback. So what he's going to wind up doing is he's going to wind up shooting through that B gap between the left tackle and left guard and going after the quarterback. As far as the other defender that we're looking to get pressure from happens to be this guy right here, which is going to wind up being the left outside linebacker, and he's going to come off the right side of the offensive line and put some pressure on the quarterback. So that's pretty much the setup right there. The only other thing I can tell you with this particular setup is, depending on what formation your opponent's coming out, in this case it's a spread formation, what you may wind up having to do, you'll notice that I highlighted this guy right here, which is a slot receiver, and as you look at it, you're going to notice that the free safety is playing man coverage on him. So what you're going to probably want to do here is you're going to want to bring him up into this area here to go ahead and do that and cover him. If not, then you can always just take control of maybe this guy right here and kind of bring him up in here just to make it look like you're bringing some type of inside pressure. That's up to you. But here's what we're going to wind up doing with this one. I want you guys to watch these two guys as far as the guys that are going to put some pressure on the quarterback. This guy right here and then this guy right here as far as what we're going to wind up doing. Let's just go ahead and reset it and go ahead and go through the setup one more time here. So we're going to go ahead and bring this guy in here, and then we're going to go ahead and bring this guy down here as far as the setup goes. And don't forget, we called bump and run man coverage. So let's just go ahead and run it and take a look at it, and you're going to wind up seeing that we wind up getting some pressure coming on the quarterback. So nice little defense to go ahead and bring some pressure from both sides of the field as far as putting pressure up the middle and from the outside. So let's go ahead and look at it. As I said before, you're going to wind up getting this B-gap pressure coming off this from this guy right here. He's going to shoot through and put pressure between the left guard and left tackle, and then the other guy that you're going to wind up getting pressure is coming from this guy right here, which is left outside linebacker, and he's going to come in this direction here. Let's go ahead and run it from the top-down view, and you can kind of see what I was talking about as far as pressure on the quarterback. And there you go. You want him getting that pressure. Now, obviously, if the quarterback does have time, he does have options. Hopefully, one of your guys are going to get home and put the pressure on the quarterback. So, again, this one's a nice little defense to go ahead and put some pressure on a quarterback, and it's called Overload Blitz. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the second play as far as our scheme goes, and let's go ahead and take a look at the name of the play. And this is a compliment to this particular defense because it's pretty much the same defense, except rather than it being a man defense, it winds up being a zone defense. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. And this one is called Overload 3 Seam. And let's run that same offensive play that we've been running. We're sending everybody out, by the way. Now, I do want to point out, if everybody doesn't go out and maybe the halfback stays in the pass block, at least with that last blitz, you still wind up getting pressure from one of those defenders. As far as the overload 3 seam goes, what you're going to wind up having is 3 defenders playing 3 deep coverage, and then you're going to wind up having 3 defenders playing underneath coverage as far as zone coverage. So you have these 3 guys right here playing 3 deep, and then you wind up having these guys right here going ahead and playing underneath in this area here. So you wind up having those guys doing that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the setup here. Again, it's the same setup that we pointed out earlier. You take control of the nickel back right here, and you go ahead and bring him to the inside, release him, and you kind of see what we're doing right there. So he's going to line up again behind the right outside linebacker. Here he is right there. And then this guy is the one that you want to take control of, which is going to wind up being the left inside linebacker. You want to bring him up in here, or actually he's going to be the middle linebacker. Actually, you're going to bring him up in this area here, and then what you're going to do is you're going to hold down the left trigger, and then what you want to do is you want to hold on to it once the ball snaps and wait for the nickel back to get pressure on the quarterback. And then you can go ahead and release him and do that. And that's what you're looking to do with this particular one as far as bringing pressure on the quarterback. Let's look at it from the top-down view, and you kind of see what I was talking about earlier. You can, as you see right here, we go ahead and take control of the middle linebacker right here. And what we're doing is we're just looking to go ahead and get one of these offensive linemen to go ahead and look to block us, rather it be the center possibly, or possibly maybe the right guard. We want one of these guys to at least look to block us. And that's the idea of that. And then you can kind of see if that happens, what that's going to do, it's going to free up the nickel back to come in between the left tackle and left guard to go ahead and put some pressure on the quarterback. So let's go ahead and look at it. You can see that the right guards, at least initially, let's go back in here, and you can kind of see how this right guard, he's looking to go ahead and block us, or at least looking our way in this area here, and that's what allows us to get that pressure by doing this as far as doing that with that middle linebacker. And then here comes the nickel back who comes up through the B gap, and then he's going to wind up shooting through here, and he's going to wind up coming through that B gap and putting that pressure on the quarterback right through there. And then you can kind of see, as far as the pass coverages go, you can kind of see out there on the outside the flats aren't really covered there. So there is an opportunity possibly for the guy to try to throw it as far as the quarterback. Hopefully you can wind up getting before he winds up having a chance to even consider doing that. And the other thing we want to point out, as you see, notice that nickel back, as he's coming through, right as he gets to the line of scrimmage, then that's the time that we want to go ahead and drop our linebacker back into coverage in this area here. And then we wind up doing that. See how we drop him back, and then we wind up getting that pressure. So those are the 2 blitzes that we want to show. Let's go ahead and show the other defense that we want to show here, which is going to wind up being a 2-man under defense. Now keep in mind that it could be any defense out of here. You could use a cover 3 defense. You could use a cover 4. We just happen to choose the 2-man under because that's really one of our base defenses that we like to run, not only from this formation, but from pretty much any formations in the game. So let's go back to that same defense or offensive play again. And here we're going to do that same thing. We're going to go ahead and call bump and run here. We're going to go ahead and move this guy up in here like we did before. This is the nickel back that we talked about earlier. So we're going to go ahead and move him to the inside, release him. And again, he lining up behind the right outside linebacker. Is the right outside linebacker. And then we're just going to take control of this guy right here this time. We're just going to bring him up, and we're going to put him in a hook zone. We're not actually going to rush him. He was initially supposed to blitz. This winds up being the right inside linebacker. We're just going to go ahead and hold down that trigger, and then we're just going to drop him back. And again, we're not looking to get pressure from him at all. We're just looking to go ahead and do this. Hopefully our 3 defensive linemen will bring the pressure on the quarterback, and that's it. And like I said, so this is the idea of this, is to kind of make it look like the same defense that we set up, and then we can wind up putting some pressure on the quarterback and then doing some nice little things with this one. So again, we're going to take control of this guy right here, which is the nickel back, bring him to the inside, switch off to this guy right here. And if you want to, you can rush this guy. You can do whatever you want with him. But for this particular play, we're just going to go ahead and put him on a hook zone. Hold down that right trigger, and then we're just going to go ahead and let the defense go. If you want to, a couple other things you can do with this defense. You may want to go ahead and put this guy in QB contain. If you want to, you can do that. Maybe put this guy right here in QB contain. Those are the 2 linebackers. A lot of different things you can do with this defense if you want. It's up to you. So this one is called 2-man under, and the whole name of the scheme is called, as you go ahead and look at it, again, the name of the scheme is called Nickel 155 Prowl Blitz scheme that we're showing. That's very effective out of the Steelers playbook that definitely brings some pressure on the quarterback that we feel does a nice little job at putting pressure. So make sure you guys check this one out. Don't forget, we got lots of other tips out there. Go ahead and check out those other tips. For more free Madden 13 tips, please visit our site. It's www.xsosfootball.com. So again, thanks for checking out this video. We'll be back next week showing another one.